All right, Shalom. First off, I want to start off by saying all praises, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakal Kadash. That's all praises who the world calls God in Jesus Christ. The true names in the Hebrew is Yahweh for the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai for his beloved Son. Also, want to say double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and mercy to the hopeful elect preaching His word and truth and sincerity. This is the brother Tazabah in the Great Millstone, Arizona camp, with another video the Lord will edify. And I want to do an update on this coronavirus thing and how it's impacting on a further scale. So I got a couple of videos and an article that Apostle Tahar has already gone over, and I'm going to flow through the spirit. I don't have any precepts really brought up. This is just a procession of information that's come out within this last week where, hey, man, stuff is moving along as far as prophecy and how this place is going to crumble. So I'm going to start playing these videos, man. Shalom.
Boo 7. We have millions of Chinese mourning the doctor that has died that was the whistleblower initially spreading information on this that the Chinese government looked to quickly clamp down on into silence. We are now hearing that there are over 400 million people on lockdown, in quarantine, in China. So you know, per the numbers and consensus, the United States population per 2018 was 327 million. There are more people on lockdown and in quarantine in China than there even are in all of the United States. Could you imagine the whole country on quarantine, locked down, no one allowed to leave their home? If you leave your home, you have to show an ID. Then they have drones swooping down on people, acting like police officers, interrogating people that are out in the streets. There are numbers being thrown around left and right, and I think it's safe to say that the official numbers coming from the Chinese government are skewed because everything else they've ever done is that way. It would just be, I think, on into silence. We are now hearing that there are over 400 million people on lockdown, in quarantine, in China. So you know, per the numbers and consensus, the United States population per 2018 was 327 million. There are more people on lockdown and in quarantine in China than there even are in all of the United States. Could you imagine?
Let me get some of these. You know what? I'm going to just read it off the phone. The second Ezra's 15 and and 17. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. You see, that's what we're seeing here, man. This coronavirus, man, 400 million people on lockdown, bro. 400 million people on lockdown. That means for that lockdown to stay consistent, you have to have police forces, security forces, and military forces enforce that lockdown. Now they're sitting there saying that they have drones going through the city to ensure people have their mask on and are not breaking curfew, coming out of their houses, anything like that. So this is how real it is, man.
The whole country on quarantine, locked down, no one allowed to leave their home. If you leave your home, you have to show an ID. Then they have drones swooping down on people, acting like police officers, interrogating people that are out in the streets. There are numbers being thrown around left and right, and I think it's safe to say that the official numbers coming from the Chinese government are skewed because everything else they've ever done is that way. It would just be, I think, naive and short-sighted to sit there and think that they're not going to do this when they've been caught time and time again, fudging numbers in all kinds of departments. In this case, they're saying the confirmed cases have surpassed 31,000. The deaths at 638. A reporter said the real death toll could be closer to 20K, and of course, then they quickly silenced that. A German scientist says that this can survive on the surface for up to 9 days. Hong Kong has confirmed case number 25. This is affecting 3 provinces in over 60 cities. And as I said, this quarantine now affects over 400 million people.
Read this. It's an article that one of the brothers, GMS LA, Ash, Ash, Asha, Asha, or Ash, AHSH. He put this article on there. It says Hal Turner radio show. Now, it says virus completely out of control, killing tens of thousands every day. Government covering up. Now, whether or not this is true or not, I believe this is true. There's a large scale media silence on what's going on over there in China right now. The real gravity of it. People, all the social media posts have been silenced. Now I'm gonna read some of this and I'm gonna jump down because there were videos coming out where they're just showing people dropping dead on the street everywhere. Now, peep this. It says deaths from the bioweapon coronavirus outbreak are widespread. It's mind-boggling. Now, coronavirus was labeled a bioweapon by the I forgot the organization, but it's a global organization. It was labeled as a bioweapon because it was produced in a lab in Canada, reproduced in not long after the information came out that it was a produced in a lab. The coronavirus was produced in a lab that they recreated it without any samples in Australia as well. So, this as the outbreak in China is completely, totally out of control and literally killing tens of thousands of people every day. The death toll is being deliberately concealed by the government to avoid public panic. Didn't the W7 just sit there and say they have a history of messing with the numbers? It says yesterday, more cities inside China have been put under travel restrictions, quarantine, locking down another 9 million people. Now we're up to 400 million people that are being quarantined right now. This pestilence is real. This is kind of a side note, but I wanted to bring this out. It says now the virus is spreading to many other countries around the world. What we see happening in China will also happen in those other countries, including to us here in the United States. The media silence about what is presently taking place in China and elsewhere is almost a crime against humanity. The general public is being left blissfully unaware that the single most deadly outbreak of disease in more than 100 years is spreading like wildfire around the globe because a virus laboratory in Wuhan, China appears to have accidentally released a military bioweapon it was working on. You see that? Now let's jump down. It says when the disease rises to levels in America, Europe, and Australia, as it has been in China, has in China, those people in the general public will die from lack of preparedness. Take a look at videos below from inside China and see for yourselves the levels of death taking place each and every day. Now, these videos have been taken down, man. You can't even watch them. All of these videos have been taken down. You can't even pull them up. They won't even play for you. Now, but peep this, all these pictures, Hong Kong restaurant, man just drops dead. Off a train station, woman just drops dead. In an airport, woman just drops dead. Subway station in a shopping center, dude just drops dead, slumped in the street. You see this? But people here are worried about it's about to be March. You're gonna have March Madness. You just have the Super Bowl. You got basketball. You got all these things. The acquittal of Donald Trump. People are worried about all these things, but here it is. Throughout the world, you got. Look at this. This is China. Chinese authorities are so desperate to stop the virus, they're actually spraying disinfectant outdoors and in public housing. It says empty streets. You see that? Empty streets. China, one of the most populated countries in the world. This is how their streets look right now. When the hell do you see that, bro? Now, I'm gonna go back to these videos. Now, this 400 million people on lockdown, right? What is this gonna affect as far as global scheme?
Before you do, portable U.S.-China trade war ain't. This might be the first detail of that deal to finally be revealed. But skeptics say this is a move motivated by coronavirus fears that have isolated mainland China from the rest of the world and have tanked stocks. Investigative journalist Ben Swan joined me a little earlier to discuss. Here's what he said.
Chinese already had an agreement to do this. They were already supposed to roll this back. So we're talking about, a rollback on tariffs on about 1,717 different U.S. goods. Okay, we don't exactly know the value of that, which is interesting because when the Chinese released this information saying that they were going to do this, they did not include
American goods and services as well. But is that feasible given the tanking of their stock markets over the coronavirus?
Well, look, it's not really feasible. I mean, the reality is that the Chinese cannot, based on everything that's been happening with the coronavirus. Because remember, Chinese have had to quarantine about a dozen cities. 60 million people are under quarantine. But as part of that, enormous numbers of factories and manufacturing companies have ceased to manufacture for the last few weeks, and they probably will for the next few months. That has an enormous level of disruption, kind of creating backup within that Chinese pipeline. So the Chinese really, they're not going to be able to keep up with this. Now, there is within the phase one agreement, which a lot of people may not realize when this agreement was signed, because...
Read this. So Ecclesiastes 12:1, it says, remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them, while the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. And the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble. Who are the keepers of the house, man? Those are talking about your elite banking families, your governments. Those are the keepers of the house. It says, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. The grinders cease, and they're showing you, man. 400 million people on quarantine. He said 60 million in this video, and this video is from, what date is this? February 6th. And this one is from February 7th, 2020. Now, whether or not to be 60 million or 400 million, that's a lot of people quarantined, skewing the numbers. You have to, when you think about this, really, the Chinese skewing the numbers is the only way they're going to keep their economy afloat at this moment. If everybody knew that China was so affected by this coronavirus that 400 million people are under quarantine, that the people know that you're not going to be out working. If you're on quarantine, that means no work. You're in your house. That's it. It still stands to be presented how these people are getting food, the basic necessities while they're in their homes. How many people have tried to break this quarantine because they can't stay in these goddamn coffin apartments that they have in China, where you're living in something that's smaller than a goddamn dorm room. You're living in a goddamn closet. It stands to be shown what's happening with that. So they're showing you now that this quarantine is affecting their economy. This coronavirus is affecting their economy. And this is what the Ecclesiastes 12:3 says. It says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few. The grinder is talking about work. It's ceasing, man. So with more and more of these people not going to work, 400 million people out of the workforce, and now you have all these people that were producing these goods to be traded and sold and exported to all these other nations. What do you think that's going to do for the shopping industry in America? That means all those products that China would have produced won't be coming to the U.S. That means less and less stores, less and less inventory, less and less truck hauls. That means you're going to cut costs, and the prices are going to either skyrocket or deflate. That's what's going to happen, man. This is all going into prophecy. It says, verse 4, it says, Ecclesiastes 12:4, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sounding of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. This is what we're seeing, man. You know, the time for mirth is almost gone.
Who expects you to use it? There is a clause when there is a disaster, some kind of an emergency that takes place, and you say, well, we can't fulfill it. Therefore, the Chinese could invoke that clause at this point because of the coronavirus, specifically the fact that the WHO has bills.
Okay, so they do have a little bit of
There
an
is a
out.
clause, yeah.
There's an out, or at least a timeout on any punishment. The saying, if America sneezes, the world catches a
Right,
cold.
that's right.
Is that applicable now to China in the 22nd?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is applicable to China for a couple of reasons. And one
If America squeezes, the world catches a cold. Now they're saying that's what's happening with China. China sneezing, they're plagued, and it's going to cause a hiccup in a global scheme of the world, right? So peep this. Come on, bro. I had it.
take ownership stake in cell phone companies, which suspicious of that, as well as the soybean purchases that China's agreed to. Look, China, it seems like, has bitten off more than they can chew, for lack of a better term, in terms of some of these purchases. But with the coronavirus, it gives them an out where they can say, hey, listen, you can't punish us, you can't add additional tariffs because we have this disaster-related clause, and because the WHO...
And over the years, China has become the manufacturing hub for American, European, Korean, and Japanese automakers. The country produces more vehicles than anywhere else in the world and is the largest market for sales. China alone exports more than $70 billion in car parts and accessories each year. But the provisions taken to control the spread of the coronavirus will likely take a toll on the auto industry. For instance, listen to this. Toyota, the world's second largest automaker, said they will keep auto production in China closed through the 16th of February. South Korean giants Kia and Hyundai will idle their factories until the same date, and Honda's Wuhan plant won't return to operation until the 13th of February. Now, according to S&P Global Ratings, the coronavirus could cause an overall cut in production of around 15% in autos in the first quarter of 2020. And this is it.
Now, he said 15% in the autos. He said it was $7 billion industry, right? So times 0.45. That's a loss of $1,050,000,000, right? Wait, did I do that? No, I didn't do it right. Let me see. There's your billion. Times 0.5. That's a loss of $1,050,000,000 in circulation in the Chinese marketplace. Now, whether or not this stuff is able to bounce back, whether or not the amount of employees they think are going to come back to be able to make this happen is going to happen, that's going to affect this number as well. So that could be the total loss of production could actually be way more than 1 billion. You can literally lose half of that 7 billion already in the beginning of the year, or even more, man. So this is what we're seeing happening, man. This is affecting global economies, bro. You know? Let me get this. This is Genesis 47:15. It says, and when the money failed in Egypt, in the land of Egypt, and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. And that's what we're seeing. The money is failing. The money is failing. This is part of prophecy. This place is going down in a way that the Lord is just cooking up something special, bro. And no, I didn't see it in my mind as this is the way the Lord was going to bring it. I knew He was going to bring pestilence, according to the scriptures and things of this manner. But hey, the Lord sparking a disease that just cripples economies globally just off of fear. This is beautiful. But Lord willing, this is some good edification for brothers. Oh, I'm gonna touch on this one too. Now it says this is an article the Apostle Tahar brought out. It says government unveils new electronic tags for people under Wuhan coronavirus home quarantine. Now, peep this. This is a bad article, bro. It says the Hong Kong government has announced it has 500 electronic monitoring tags ready to distribute to Hong Kong people placed under home quarantine upon returning to the SAR after having spent time in Hubei province. It says the epicenter of the ongoing coronavirus outbreak. The government's chief information officer, Victor Lam, unveiled the e-tag at the press briefing this afternoon, saying that any Hong Kong resident who have been to Hubei in the past 14 days must undergo a home quarantine of 14 days, a measure the new electronic bracelets are meant to ensure. It says the tag is paired to a smartphone using Bluetooth Low Energy or BLE technology and is plugged into mains at the wearer's home. It says if a person wearing the tag unplugs the phone and leaves the quarantine zone with it, or if the distance between the tag and the phone exceeds 20 meters, an alert would be sent to the Department of Health and police. It says the authorities will also get an alert if the tag is broken or removed. Anyone who violates the home quarantine order faces up to 6 months in jail and a fine of Hong Kong $5,000 or US $644. Now this is all a predecessor to the mark of the beast. And in a quick testimony, I got a text from my uncle who's in prison, which I don't know why the fuck he texted me, saying saying it was my mom's birthday and shit. And I told him I helped my mom out already, man. I don't need to tell her happy birthday. I don't do the shit. But I asked him, did he see the stuff that's going on with the coronavirus? And he played it off. So I told him, hey man, it's already been put on by the World Health Organization as being labeled as an epidemic. And I sent him a scripture in Matthew's the 24th chapter. I believe it starts at the 6th or the 16th verse, where the Lord's telling them, the things that will happen before the end of the world, before His coming, and we're in those times. And he was like, he said he believed that somebody would make this and that there's a patent on it. And I said, yeah, you know what? And they're going to push the mark of the beast behind this. And that's what we're seeing, man, because here it is. And China is a huge, vast land. Other places in the world, this goes back to that ID 2020 agenda, where they want to make everybody be able to be identified. And this is one of the ways they can do it, because if you have a global epidemic and you have to make sure everybody gets vaccinated for it with things that we know is not going to work because these vaccinations aren't even tested. They're just put out, and the CDC owns the patents for a lot of these vaccines. So how do you have an organization own the patents, making money for it, and then they're sitting there telling you have to get this and making it policy? So now you have a entity that's sitting there saying, you need to get this vaccine. We're making it. We're selling it to you. You have to get it. That seems like that's a conflict of interest, But they're going to use this as a way, as even in these underdeveloped places, they're going to make these people get the chip. Because what does it say in the book of Revelation? Let me get it, man. Revelation. What is it? I think it's 16. Salakia. Revelation 11. And son of a bitch. Revelation 13. Salakia. And 16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, you know, and he's wearing this tag on his right hand, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark of the beast or the number of his name. You know, so this is what we're seeing, man. This mark of the beast is slowly being gradually built up to it. You're starting off with these tags because it's coronavirus, and they said in this article that it would take them another 2 weeks to have 1,000 more ready. You know, but you got 400 million people under quarantine right now. That's not going to work. But they've been sitting here mass producing those microchips for years now. So at some point, they're going to be like, to make these tags wearable around the wrist isn't going to be feasible. We're going to make this mandatory to get it put into your hand, because these things are already here as GPS tracking. You're able to buy and sell on it. China is already one of those economies that are cashless. So being able to do that is just one step closer, bro. We're in a time of prophecy, man. These plagues are coming from the Heavenly Father that is crippling economies. It's going to cripple the global structure of things. And this is we're in the time, bro. So put your prayers up, man. You know, brace yourself, gird up your loins like a man. You women out there that say you believe, humble down, pray that your husbands be strong in this time. Pray that you be strong in this time. You know, Lord willing, this is edifying. I want to say, Kah Allah, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, and peace and mercy, hopeful elect. Shalom.